Hello and thanks for joining us from our studios in Israel. I'm Aaron Porras, here with ILTV's morning briefing.
A rare April storm pummeled the Holy Land with golf ball-sized hail and flash floods yesterday. The storm was so intense that streets began flooding less than 20 minutes after the downpour started. Unfortunately, this all took a deadly turn for the worse. At this time, 2 teenagers, one Israeli and one Palestinian, have been reported killed in flash flooding. The Israeli victim is a 17-year-old boy. Tragically, he was swept away by fast-moving waters in the southern Negev desert and carried for several miles until rescuers were able to find him. But by then, he was already unconscious. A similar disaster has claimed the life of a young Palestinian girl near Gush Etzion in the West Bank. Etzion rescue volunteers and IDF forces attempted to rescue the girl, but unfortunately were unable to respond in time. Streets all over Israel and the Palestinian territories have seen massive flooding, sometimes dangerously so. Some schools were forced to evacuate, and a ceiling even collapsed due to the rainfall in a commercial center in Rishon LeZion. Though the country does see rain during the winter seasons, Israelis have often complained of the poor infrastructure to properly drain rainwater and prevent flooding. But these 2 terrible tragedies are painful reminders that Mother Nature is often a force not to be reckoned with. A third country has now emerged as next in line to relocate its government's embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, effectively recognizing the Holy City as Israel's capital. The Czech Republic has announced a 3-step plan to make the move, following the example of both the United States and Guatemala. There is no clear timetable on the map, but in the Czech president's own words, hopefully, quote, next year in Jerusalem, end quote. President Milos Zeman has been extremely vocal about supporting such an embassy move. After announcing his plan, however, the Czech Foreign Ministry seemed to pump the brakes a bit. According to them, the country still respects the joint policy of the European Union, quote, which sees Jerusalem as the future capital of the State of Israel and the State of Palestine, end quote. Still, President Zeman says next month the country will open an official consulate in Jerusalem, the first phase of ultimately moving all embassy operations from Tel Aviv. No schedule yet for exactly how or when the rest of that move will occur, but given the Czech Republic's warm relations with Israel, it looks like the gears are already in motion. The March of Return demonstration on the Gaza-Israel border is nearing its 5th weekend out of a planned 6, and now 2 Palestinian journalists have been reported killed. 30-year-old cameraman for Palestinian Ain Media, Yasser Murtaja, was shot during protests on April 6th and died the next day. Then a week later, on April 13th, Ahmad Abu Hussein, who worked for Gaza's Al-Shab radio station, was also shot. He succumbed to his wounds Wednesday. Photos of Abu Hussein wearing a protective vest marked press at the time that he was shot immediately went viral on social media, again calling into question both Israel's use of force as well as the alleged targeting of Palestinian journalists. Israel said earlier in the month that the army was not intentionally targeting journalists and that an investigation into Murtaja's death would be opened. The IDF has not yet commented on Abu Hussein's death, but the total death toll on the border now stands at 38, with hundreds more injured. Terror group Hamas, which organized the ongoing event, claims it's a peaceful sit-in protest, but video from the scene shows that it's anything but, as tens of thousands of Palestinians at the border continue to burn tires, fling stones, rocks, and Molotov cocktails, plant explosives and otherwise try to destroy or infiltrate the fence, and even drop firebombs by kite. And all this at a time when Gaza continues to spiral towards a supposed humanitarian crisis. In fact, the UN Relief and Works Agency, or UNRWA, claims that the Trump administration withheld $240 million more from the Palestinian Aid Agency than previously reported. An UNRWA spokesperson warned that if the agency can't raise another $200 million as soon as possible, then food aid for roughly 1 million Gaza Palestinians could run out by June. Israeli police officer Ben Deri pleaded guilty for the murder of Palestinian teenager Nadim Siam Nawara back in 2014. Under a plea agreement, Officer Deri admitted to causing Nawara's death through negligence instead of manslaughter by accidentally using live fire instead of rubber rounds when dispersing a crowd on Nakba Day in 2014. Palestinians annually demonstrate on the day of the Nakba, or the catastrophe, the same day Israel claimed independence. Judge Daniel Tepperberg, who presided over the case, said Deri's actions caused serious and severe harm to Israel's social values of sanctity of life and the human right to well-being. It was noted by the court that Nawara had been throwing rocks and participated in the violent demonstrations. But at the time of the shooting, he was nowhere near Deri's unit, meaning he posed Deri no harm and did not warrant being shot in the first place. Deri has been sentenced to around just 9 months in prison, with 2 months already behind him for time served. He was also ordered to pay the Nawara family a sum of 50,000 shekels in damages. Israeli border police officers have just discovered a massive illegal alcohol operation in the village of Kfar Bara this morning. According to the police spokesperson, thousands of fake bottles of whiskey, vodka, wine, and more, created in poor sanitary conditions and without permits, were found on the factory premises. Machines to forge bottles, stickers, corks, glasses, and more were also found and seized. After receiving a tip about the illegal factory last night, police sprung immediately into action. The police statement continued to express that any attempt to illegally import, manufacture, or distribute alcoholic beverages in Israel will be dealt with severely.
That's all for now. I'm Aaron Porras, and see you later with our main daily broadcast from Israel at 2 p.m. Eastern Time.